What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV, aka Big Mike, aka Uncle Mike, and let's talk about this game. The New York Knicks hosting the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the fourth seed versus the fifth seed. Now, um, you know, I like the atmosphere of this game. Whenever you have the New York Knicks in the playoffs, it beckons you back to yesteryear, the glory days for the Knicks. You think of the championship years in the 1970s with Walt Clyde Frazier, Earl Monroe, Dave DeBusschere, Willis Reed, Jerry Lucas, Bill Bradley, Phil Jackson. You think of those guys. Even the 80s, even though they weren't a great team generally in the early to mid to late 80s, they weren't really a great team, but they were usually a playoff contending team at the very least. So you think of those teams with early on you had Bill Cartwright, Otis Birdsong, excuse me, Michael Ray Richardson was there for a while, moved over to the Nets. Then of course you had the Bernard King years before he got hurt. And Patrick Ewing, Patrick Ewing was the cornerstone for the Knicks from '85 to 2000, and for the most part during his run, especially in the '90s, they were contenders peaking in my opinion, 92 and 93 and 94. I really believe that in 1994 they should have won the championship. Okay, in my opinion, Patrick Ewing choked in those finals. Um, but shortly thereafter, they began to decline. Ewing was traded in 2000. You saw a little bit of you know, a pretty good team with Larry Johnson and Marcus Camby, but then you know, LJ, he got hurt as far as he actually been hurting for a while with his back. And then his back just got so bad that he had to retire. I think it was in 2001. And then, they had Latrell Sprewell and Allen Houston for a while. They were sort of like the tandem. And then Allen Houston signs that big contract with, the Knicks just as he's pushing 30 into the prime of his career. And then he gets hurt with the knees. Then they blow that team up. And then You know, they have Marbury for a while. Marbury gets eviscerated by the media, in particular Stephen A. Smith, which has been talked about recently with Kwame Brown and his mama's cooking, sprinkling all over those busters. Then, since 2012, they've sucked. 2012, 2013. But this year, Julius Randle and the Knicks, they made a playoffs. They made it to the playoffs this year. And they're playing against Atlanta. And Trae Young made his playoff debut, and it was one hell of a performance for Trae Young. Okay, he hit the game winner, and which led to a 107-105 victory over New York. Trae Young finished with 32 points, 7 rebounds, and 10 assists. And it didn't help that the crowd was chanting "fuck you." You know, that's the thing about New York fans; they will antagonize their opponent into moitering them, whether it's Glenn Rice dropping 42 during the '97 season at the Garden, Jordan dropping 55, Kobe dropping 61 back in 2009. That's just what they antagonize you into doing. Um, Julius Randle did not have a good game. I think he shot poorly, something like, what was it, 6 of 20 from the floor? And you have to think if he had a decent game, that they probably would have won. But this is the thing though. Um, this is going to be a great series. Okay, They got two great coaches. Nate McMillan, who's a very underrated coach. He never should have been fucking fired from Indy in the first place. You see what happened when Nate McMillan left? Well, was jettisoned from Indiana. They didn't fucking make the playoffs. You see what he's done with that team in 1 year, Nate McMillan. He was always a great coach. He was always a great basketball mind, even if he wasn't the best player on those Sonics teams in the 80s and 90s. And Tom Thibodeau. I'm a Bulls fan, so I've seen up front that he's a great coach. To me, he was the mastermind behind why Boston won the championship in 2008. Don't get me wrong, they were a great team with Paul Pierce and Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett, but it was their defense. It was their defense that led them to that championship. So Atlanta's up 1-0. I don't know who's going to win this series. It could be Atlanta. If I had to take a guess, I think it's going to be New York. Simply because of the fact that Trae Young is one of those type of players. I mean, let me look at some numbers before I say this. Let me look at his numbers right quick before I say this. Excuse me. And of course, when I'm trying to find something while I'm recording, my phone wants to fucking glitch. Oh, I hate this fucking shit, man. Arrogant, 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 refuse. Anyway, this year Trae Young is averaging 25 points and 9 assists. He shoots 43.8% from the floor. And I can't look at his 3-point shooting, but I'm assuming it's something around 35%, okay? From looking at his older numbers before. 34, 35%. It's not that efficient. So, to me, you can't expect Trae Young to always put up these 30, 35-point games with pretty decent efficiency. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could be wrong, you know. I mean, there's other factors involved. It's not just Trae Young. But to me, historically, whenever there's been a team that's led by a guy like Trae Young, and he's a perimeter guy, and he's kind of smallish, and he doesn't shoot with the greatest efficiency, I've always sort of looked at these teams as limited. And like I said, Julius Randle was 6 for 20. Randle, I think, has had two 40-point games against Atlanta this year. So Julius Randle's not going to go 6 for 20 every night. Just put this series. And you still only lost by two. So I think the Knicks probably, if I had to take a guess, got Tom Thibodeau. They got home court advantage. I would give it to New York, either 6 or 7, even though Atlanta won this game. But tell me what you guys think.